Welcome to the WagerTalk Podcast for the week ending April 29th. We have another big show lined up this week. We've got Ralph Michaels and Dave Cokin joining me in studio. We're going to preview the biggest games in the NBA playoffs and Major League Baseball for this upcoming weekend. And, of course, at the end of the show, you'll get a best bet from each of us. These best bets, 5 and 2 so far on the show, with a series bet pending from Dave and an under in Game 1 of the Sharks and the Golden Knights pending from Dave. So we'll have that at the end of the show. Mark Seidel's behind the controls, and I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo. Let's get this party started. Well, guys, NBA playoffs. We're still here in round one. We've had two teams finish their series. The first one will get started round 2 on Saturday. We'll talk about that one in a moment. Is Golden State and New Orleans have advanced. Houston has advanced. They're waiting to see who they're going to play. And looking at this one, guys, we got on Friday night Cleveland and Indiana. What a series this has turned out. And, Ralph, well, it's Cleveland, so I'm going to come to you. LeBron saved the day for Cleveland, burying a 3 at the buzzer in Game 5 to take that pivotal 3-2 lead. But the Cavs can't shake this pesky Indiana team. How do you see this one going back to Indiana for Game 6?
Well, to know that the Cavs are leading the series in control and they've shot in 43.8% pretty much says it all. It's, you know, LeBron has no help. He's put it on his shoulder, and he's done it. But I look at the series, and the difference has been they have shut down Oladipo. He was 2 of 15 Game 5. He's 12 of 50 the last 3 games, and he beat him the first 2 games. The Cavs have decided to focus on him, make sure he doesn't beat you, and no one else has stepped up for the Pacers.
Dave, there's no surprise when it comes to the Cavaliers. Their bench got outscored 44-18 in the last game. And once again, they're getting all their scoring from 3 players. LeBron puts up 44. Korver gets 19. Love puts 11 up. No other Cav after that had more than 6 points. You look at the other side and you look at Indiana. They had 5 players in double figures, including Sabonis off the bench, scored 22. Can Cleveland win on the road with just 3 guys carrying a load?
Well, I think it's probably going to be another close game. So the answer to that is yes. But Oladipo, this is where he's going to stand up and prove that he's the superstar on the Pacers, and I think he might be able to do it. I mean, I think this kid's going to come with tremendous determination in Game 6, and I would guess, and that's the right word, guess, if you peruse my selections over the next few days at WagerTalk.com, you will not find me selling a play on this game. That I can guarantee you. I don't do much in the NBA anyway. But in this game, I would lean to the Pacers, but not with nearly enough conviction to make it a play.
Ralph, how are you leaning on this one?
You know, the totals are priced crazy. That's the only word I can use. You know, the Cavs played great offense and such poor defense in the end of the regular season. The Cavs have gone under 6 straight games. The average line in those 6 games, 209.7. They've gone under by 16 points per game. The Pacers in themselves are an under team. They finished their last 62 games. They went 18-44 to the under. That's a 71% mark. Pacers are 1-7 as a home favorite to the under. You've got the extra pressure of Game 6. Again, I am all over the under in this game.
Yeah, I look at this one, guys, and as you said, Dave, these games have been tight. After the Game 1 blowout, all of the other games have been decided by 4 points or less. When you come to a pressure situation like this, and if it is going to be one of those type of games, I think you got to give the edge to the Cavaliers because they've got more big game experience, obviously, with LeBron and Love being in 3 straight, NBA Finals with the Cavs. If this one comes down close, and the problem with Cleveland is they can't get that separation with their defense. Here's a spot where you just got to pick the winner. I think they're kind of free rolling a little bit with house money, knowing that if they do lose, they still get a Game 7 at home. And with that little bit of less pressure, I kind of lean to Cleveland. I don't know if I can pull the trigger, though, because you watch this Cavalier team. Just when you think they're ready to find it and get a groove, they blow a big lead, and here comes the other team storming back. They just can't get any separation.
I haven't thought of that at one point that they're ready to take off and start burying teams. I mean, they might be a little better than some of the other teams that are left, but it's just a little better.
Just a little bit. And to add a stat to your under, Ralph, Indiana, when they're playing with same-season revenge, so obviously they're playing with revenge here, they're 18-5 to the under this season. So
stuff.
That's a good stat to back you there. All right, guys, let's keep the NBA rolling, and let's take a look at the next game where he got up. We've got this one, boy, I tell you what, Oklahoma City at Utah. Dave, I'm going to come to you. The Jazz, they're up 3-1. They're in command by 17 points in the third quarter.
25. They got up 25 points.
I was at dinner, so I was like watching updates here and there, and I saw it at 17 points, and I'm saying, Cleveland just went Final for me in baseball. I was happy, and I had that one rolling. Dinner was tasting a little extra special last night, and then here comes the choke job by Utah. A team like that, at least they're going back home, but is there any hangover effect after having them on the ropes and letting them up?
No, I don't think so. I think that there were a few things that happened in this game, and I did not see the comeback. I actually had bet Oklahoma City in the first half, expecting a big try from Oklahoma City in an elimination game, and usually you'll get more in the first half. It's more reliable in the first half. Right. And it was in the Minnesota-Houston game, by the way. Minnesota, easy first half winner against the Rockets. But in Oklahoma City, I lost my bet, so it's like, okay, well, that's it. They're done, and I'm done. So I went out to eat and arrived at the restaurant and looked up at the TV, and I'd been listening to baseball in the car, so I had no idea what was going on in the basketball game. I looked up at the screen, and I'm going, and I said to my friend at the restaurant, I didn't say what the hell happened. I used another word instead of hell. But that was what I asked, because Oklahoma City had gone ahead. It's like, this isn't possible. They were down 25 points, like a blink ago. Well, I mean, apparently Utah picked up a couple of fouls, one of which might have been really questionable on Gobert. Again, I didn't see it, so I'm not commenting on the quality of the official.
It was all over Twitter last night, that phantom foul.
Yes. It had an impact on the game. Utah probably got a little too comfortable, which happens in the NBA all the time. And Oklahoma City, Westbrook and company, all of a sudden they started playing like an elimination game. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some carryover to the extent that Oklahoma City comes out hot in Game 6, feeling good about themselves. They're on a free roll, basically, at this point. But I don't think it's going to last. I think Utah knows they're the better basketball team, knows they match up well with this team. I think they will rationalize what took place in Game 5 and blame it on themselves for letting a huge lead get away, and I think they'll be coming out with a lot of conviction before a noisy home crowd. I don't see this thing going past Game 6.
Ralph, you look at this one, and through the first 5 games of this series, the favorite is 4-1, believe it or not. And if you want to back that favorite tonight, they are making you pay for it. The early number on this game was 6 with a total of 206. Utah at 6. Do you want to pay that premium for them back at home? Because it's not a must-win. Obviously, they have another chance in Game 7, but if you're the Utah Jazz, the last thing you want to be doing is making a road trip for a Game 7.
Well, the Jazz are 15-6 as a favorite their last 21 games, so they've proven they can handle the favorites role, and they've done that because of defense. What I read with Utah's papers today is they were okay they blew that lead because they didn't have their starters on the court. Gobert got his 4th foul with 9 minutes to go when they had the 25-point lead.
Which was the phantom foul.
Correct. And then Favors got his 4th foul. So you're missing 2 starters who played 12 and 10 minutes collective in the second half alone. So Utah didn't have their best players on the court. They know that. I think they bounced back. But in this series, the way it's going, I think the price is too high to back it. This is a game I'm just going to watch that Utah winning will not surprise me, but I'm not interested in laying the 6.
I'm going to go a different way in this game. And, you look at it, and offensively, Oklahoma City, they just look like they got to struggle for every shot. Oklahoma City averaged 11 made threes per game during the season. And in the last 2 games, they've had just 9 and 5. So Utah has taken one of their bread and butter plays away from them, nailing the threes. And we talked so much all year about this Utah defense, and yet we've seen a couple of these games go over the total. And Dave and I talked about the one on Tuesday after the three-pointer at the buzzer sent it over. I'm going to go with the under again, but I'm going a different route. I'm going to go first half, and I think there's value here. The first half over-under on this game is 105. The full game's 206. So I'm getting a couple of points there in the first half. And I think Utah is going to come out really with the clamps down after blowing that big lead. I think they're going to be the ones that are fired up. And the reason I don't want to go full game is because this is a closeout game. If Oklahoma City does find themselves down, they're going to be hoisting up a lot of threes. They might make some of those, but then you're also going to get that parade to the foul line because, they won't let the game go if it's the elimination game. They're going to do everything they possibly can to extend the game, and I don't want to have that cheap get over the total in the last minute of the game. So I'm going first half under for me in this one, and we've talked about this stat before, and we'll throw it out there again. Remember, Oklahoma City against division opponents this year, now 4-17 against the spread. That's it, guys. We got one more game here on Saturday. I almost forgot because the one team's been sitting around for a week. We forgot how well they played, and that's the New Orleans Pelicans. They're going to travel to play Golden State. Ralph, I'll go with you here. The Pelicans, they embarrassed Portland. There's just no way to say it. A 4-game series sweep in round one. Portland had 0 answers to stop this offense. The last 3 games, the Pelicans score 111, 119, and 131. Now they're going to be moving into Golden State, who, at least for the first part of this series, is still going to be, not all hands on deck. They need Curry there. But can they stop this team? This is a team that's on a 9-game straight up and against the spread run. The New Orleans Pelicans come in here hot.
Not only have the Pelicans won and covered 9 straight, they've won those 9 games by 14 points per game, and they've covered them by 10.7 points per game. So we're talking about a dominating fashion the way they finished the season. And, a lot has been made that were the Pelicans a better team without Boogie Cousins? I don't think so at all. Brian talked about it a little bit on videos. Boogie Cousins is an all-star potential player. I just think the way they've played, it's freed up the middle for AD. AD's played lights out, averaging 30 points his last 24 games. But I don't think they're a better team, although he'll be out for this playoff series. I look at New Orleans, and you got to remember that their head coach, Elvin Gentry, was Steve Kerr's assistant 2014-2015 season. He was the guy who made up the plays. He knows the players. He knows how to plan and make plays against these players. So, I think that New Orleans is a live dog, and I will have a bit of a money line play as well, although I won't give that out here. But I think they're that decent of a play.
Dave, you look at it, and we have talked a lot about Boogie Cousins being out, and it's not that he's out that made them better. What it did is it made the configuration of the team better, and it got Drew Holiday into the game.
Plus, they made a trade that they wouldn't have made had he still been there.
Exactly. You've talked about that on the radio show several times. But right now, with what Drew Holiday's doing, now you've got an inside-outside presence, and that makes it a lot harder to defend this team going in. But they've sat around for a week. How do you see the Pelicans coming into this game?
Well, they sat around, but, Warriors haven't exactly been playing a ton of basketball, and they're still not healthy. And the Warriors have just not played. Look, this comes down to whether you believe that a team can just flip the switch on come playoff time. I don't know if I do or I don't. It sounds easy, but it doesn't always work out that way. New Orleans is coming in with nothing to lose, playing their best basketball since they moved to New Orleans. And I think they're going to have a nothing-to-lose attitude here. And by the way, Anthony Davis, probably the best player on the court. You're not often going to have that comment when the Warriors are involved in a game, but with Curry not healthy, Anthony Davis is probably the best player on the court in this basketball game. He has been ridiculous so far. The Warriors are going to have to defend him like crazy. And whether they come, maybe they get in foul trouble, I'm not sure. What Milicic does is going to be important. And Rondo, who had a tremendous series against Portland, offensively passing the ball, defending exceptionally well. It's Rondo playoffs. He's a different Different animal than Rondo regular season. Try and say that fast. This is one I'm not, and the beauty is you don't have to bet everything. A guess, and it's an opinion on my part, that I will not be backing with money and therefore won't be selling as a selection because I only sell selections I'm actually betting on myself. I think the Pelicans are going to give the Warriors a handful in this series. I don't think they'll beat them, but I think they're going to extend them. And that could make them live getting enough points, as is the situation in some of these games, lean New Orleans, but that's as far as it's going.
Dave, the one thing that AD presents is a matchup problem. I mean, do you have Draymond Green 4 inches short to guard him, or does Durant finally have to guard someone in the playoffs? Well, and we know he's never had to guard anyone.
You got to go Green.
That's we'll see if Green can handle it.
But physically, I don't know if he can handle it, in quotes. But one thing he might be able to do, because Green is a real expert at this, is aggravate him to the point where he gets frustrated and starts doing things that he normally doesn't do, speaking of Davis. He's human. And Draymond Green is the best get-under-your-skin guy in the NBA.
Yeah,
he really is.
He's the guy at the poker table that likes to get you on tilt. And that's exactly what
he's really good at it.
Yes, I agree with you with that. Go ahead, Ralph.
You know what? The Pelicans came into this, and we know they're scoring at an incredible pace. I mean, and that's why this total's 221.5. I just want to give you one stat. The Pelicans finished, when they were a home favorite, they were 23-3 over-under. So 23 overs of their last 26 games. But when they were a dog, as they are in Golden State, they're 1-9 over-under. So 9 unders and 1 over. So they're a different team when they're the better team as the favorite versus the underdog. We'll see what happens.
For me in this one, and I agree, I think this is going to be a matchup problem for Golden State until they get a healthy Curry back, because Durant's going to have to, he's going to have to expend some energy on the defensive end in this series for them to have a chance, because New Orleans has too many scorers. Or you're going to get into a game where we're going to be going up and down, and you're just going to be buying they won't be able to put a total high enough with these two teams. So if he does expend energy on the defensive end, how much is that going to take away from the other end? So the longer this one goes, I think is going to favor New Orleans. But in this first one, I'm going to go just with the rust factor for a little bit. I'm going to take Golden State for the first half. And, say you always have that electricity of a game one of a playoff series. I think they come out with focus. They had that bad game 4 against San Antonio where they just really were not into that game at all. And you saw the way they came out in game 5. And when we did the radio show that day, Dave, I said, take them first half, because I thought Kerr would take his foot off the gas, not to embarrass San Antonio, and it's exactly what happened in the game. So I think here you're going to see that effort for the first half, and then I think once New Orleans gets into a groove, it's going to be a different story, but I'll take Golden State first half for me. Key stat on New Orleans, they've been one of the best road teams this year against the spread. How about 28-15 against the spread on the road for the Pelicans? We're going to step out for a quick break, guys. When we return, we're going to head to Major League Baseball. We're going to preview 3 big games for the weekend for you. And then, of course, later in the podcast, we have those best bets for you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's Manic Monday, and that means every pick at WagerTalk.com is just $9. Get a play in any sport valued at up to $30 for just $9 each and every Monday at WagerTalk.com.
Welcome back to the WagerTalk Podcast. It's time to head to the Diamond and break down some Major League Baseball for the weekend. Before we get into the Friday night game, I just want to tell everybody this week at WagerTalk, we did some videos, some previews on some games, but we also did a special video, which we're going to be doing a lot of those over the summer. They're just plain handicapping videos. We're not talking about a game, but we're breaking down handicapping theories and different things. And we talked about this week, we did on tips for betting baseball. And Ralph, you have something to add to like one of the things we talked about in the videos.
Well, Marco, we talked in baseball. You can find value with favorites. You can find value in dogs. But for the most part, when you're betting baseball, the ideal thing is to find two dogs, split those games, and make some money. But, for the people that love favorites, I just want to shoot out a number. We're recording this on Thursday, so this is through Wednesday. The Houston Astros, obviously World Series champions. People are all over them. Off to a great start. They're 17-9 this year. Yet if you bet the Astros every game this year, $100 on the Astros every game, you're actually down $24. So, again, make sure you're paying attention to those lines. And just because you see a baseball record, that doesn't necessarily translate into a profit when you're betting them.
No, and I'll mention this because I actually mentioned it on today's The Las Vegas Sports Line. Going into today's action, this is pretty amazing. And there will be some regression. But as of last night, if you played every road dog so far in Major League Baseball, you're 117-91.
And there's
that
a lot of dogs
big,
in there.
big profits. Now, again, that's going to regress. It's not going to maintain that pace. You're not going to look up at the end of the season and see road dogs winning at like a 56% clip straight up. That's not going to happen. But it's fun while it lasts. And for one who likes looking at road dogs, it's been kind of a nice start to the season.
Absolutely. You have had a nice start to the season. We'll talk about that in the best bet section. Guys, on Friday, we got a good matchup. You got Arizona at Washington, and, Zach Godley goes for Washington, Strasburg for Washington. Dave, I'll go to you first. This Arizona team, they got off to the quick start, and they've continued to win. This team, as each week goes by, they're looking more and more like they're going to be there for the long haul for the season. And, they're a team that you got to figure is a little bit of undervalued. How do you see this one?
They've played 8 series so far, and they've won them all. That's the first time a team has done that since, I believe, 2007. And, the last time the Mariners had 9 straight series wins back in that year, 2002, I think it was, 1 or 01, forget, when they won 116 games. The last time a National League team did what they've done, win 8 straight series, was 41 years ago. It was the Dodgers in 77. And they're doing it, in a sense, with mirrors. Look at the lineup. Leadoff hitter's a good hitter. David Peralta's a good player. He's very underrated. Freight Trader's an underrated guy. Goldschmidt, actually, he's not off to a great start, but he's an MVP guy. Ketel Marte is in the 2-hole most of the time. Pretty good player. Not going to hit for a big average, but he makes things happen. Pollock, solid guy in the 4th spot. And then you look at the rest of the lineup, though. Jake Lamb's injured. I suddenly went blank on somebody else who's injured on that team, but it doesn't matter. They're 5 through 9. It's like Daniel Descalso, who's not even hitting 200. The catcher, who's not a particularly great hitter. Ahmed at shortstop, or Marrero if it's gets plugged in if it's a lefty on them. I mean, how are they doing this? Because when their lineup isn't balanced at all. You got a bunch of guys hitting under 200, and they're still winning all these series. Just Torey Lovullo's got something going on there. All right, the pitching's been good. The bullpen's been really solid. They're a scary team right now. Now, this matchup favors the Nationals with Strasburg. I mean, the guy's a monster. But look at the price. They're almost begging you to bet the Nationals here. And the Nationals lineup isn't exactly a bargain right now either, because they're starting to miss the guys who've been out. They've been getting by without them. It's not a disastrous start for the Nationals, but at some point, not having the Daniel Murphys of the world in the lineup on an everyday basis has got to start to have an impact on the team. Godley is proving to be an underrated commodity. Who's a pretty good pitcher. I haven't made a decision on this yet. I haven't made my number on it yet, but there's nothing that jumps out to me that says this is the time to start betting against Arizona.
Ralph, Strasburg in his last outing, he deserved better fate than he had. He went a strong 7 innings, allowing just 2 runs, but took the loss, and I was thankful he took the loss because I was on the other side on Saturday for a big play. 4-0 loss. He just ran into a red-hot pitcher, Dodgers and Ryu on Saturday. But do you see that as a buy sign to stay with Strasburg? Because he was dominant in that through those 7 innings.
Well, when you have a whip under 1, it's .99. When it starts, you've got a pitcher you can pitch on. But as Dave said, Washington has not played well in their last 21 games. They're 7-14. They were on a 4-game losing streak, and they crushed Samardzija to win 15-2. They have a day off, and now they're back at home. So, I don't know if one win in their last 4 games is going to help them. But when I broke down the Nationals a little bit more, in that 21 games when they went 7-14, they saw 8 lefty starters, and they went 1-7 against those lefties. They are last in Major League Baseball against lefties, hitting .208. They happen to have the righty here. And then when I look at Godley, 3-1 with a 3.09. His first 2 starts, he went 7 innings each start through 96 and 100 pitches. But in his last 2 games, he threw 93 pitches in only 4 innings, and then he threw 94 pitches in 5 1/3 inning, walked 6 guys in the first game, struggled in the second game with his control as well. So, again, you're going to lay the price in this game. It's a game I don't want any part of because of Washington. I can't believe it's the buy-on sign yet, and you're overpaying, and I don't think Godley's in the proper current form.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add with Godley, he did have 8 strikeouts in that last outing, the 5 2/3. And I'm a guy that I like to see when a guy's strikeout count goes up, and especially in a short innings that he had there, he was getting some of those pitches and he was fooling the hitters. And we know what you're going to get out of Strasburg. This is a spot where you got a team returning from a road trip, and I like to fade teams that first game at home because they generally come out a little sluggish that first game back at home.
Does that include having a bye as well, or doesn't that matter to your thought process?
I would rather have them play the very next day. They did have the bye, but in this instance, this was one of those road trips where it was West Coast coming back to East Coast, so that makes it always tougher on the road trip. But where I'm going to go, rather than to take a side here, I think we're going to see a low-scoring game on Friday night, and look what Vegas put the number up at. They're telling you the same thing. They put this up at 7. I wouldn't have blinked an eye if it was 7.5. But I'm going to go with the under at 7 on Friday night for me in this one. Give you a stat on Washington against the National League West opponents the last 2 seasons, 26-12 to the under in those games.
Dave talked about the lineup not being one to opposing pitchers are fear of. Arizona against right-handers batting .222 this season.
All right, well, I like that number for my under. Moving to Saturday, we got the Yankees at the Angels. Tanaka against Richards in this matchup. Ralph, Tanaka has made 5 starts this year. In 4 of those 5 starts, he has given up at least 1 home run in each of those. However, his last outing was his best of the season. He went 6 2/3, allowed just 1 run on 3 hits, no home runs. Do you think that is the buy sign for Tanaka?
I'm not. I don't buy that. No, okay. I'm not going to buy the buy sign. Right. Tanaka last year 13-12 with a 4.74 ERA, 3-2 this year with a 4.97 ERA. Tanaka's first 2 games this year, he had a 15-0 strikeout walk ratio. His last 3 starts 13-6. The Yankees, it didn't take them long to become the slugging team we thought they would. They're leading baseball. Their slugging percentage is .480, but they've only played 8 road games this year. They're now going on a road trip after a long homestand. They're only 4-4 on the road. They're averaging 4.5 runs per game. They're allowing 6 runs per game on the road. And, while Richards hasn't pitched well, he missed almost all of last year, came back in September, had 5 starts, had a nice CRA. His fastball is now back to where it is, and Richards is a player with one of the top 10 best fastballs in major leagues, averaging, over 96 miles an hour. So in this one, I think the Angels are a live play.
Dave, you look at Garrett Richards, and this is a guy that, when he's healthy, has talent, but he's struggled with injuries in his career. But you look, he's coming off a really good outing. It's best outing of the season last time out. He went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs, but he had 11 strikeouts in that outing. And again, I like when a guy jumps up and gets that high strikeout count. Is he, for me, do you look for him to continue that, or was that so good the last time that we might have a bounce from him?
Yeah, those are tough to read, but I like the idea that Richards is healthy again and starting to feel like he's in command of his stuff out there. His secondary pitches have been a little bit spotty, but I think he's going to be all right. This is a very exciting series because Albert Pujols is now just, I believe it's 6 hits away from 3,000. and it's the Yankees coming to town with all those big bats. Shohei Ohtani will be doing the DHing in a couple of games. Trout, best player in the business. He's off to a phenomenal start, by the way, with the power. This is a really good series. I mean, this is going to be some great baseball to watch. And I mean, I don't mean to be copping out, but you know, I still have to update my Yankee numbers from today, and so I'm not ready to give any plays out yet for the weekend. And I'm one who needs to get all that information down and then make my number on a game, because that's what decides whether I'm going to play a game. But I can tell you, Richards does have a little bit of an arrow up on his rating right now, where I'm starting to adjust slowly. And Tanaka, he's a better than average pitcher. So I don't want to make it sound demeaning at all, but he's not that much better than average. He just isn't. Okay, I mean, he maybe ought to be, and at times he looks sensational when he's got that splitter really working. I mean, it's never a strike, and hitters swing at it anyway because it looks like a strike. But it just doesn't happen all the time for him now. He's getting up, he's throwing a lot of innings, and the consistency factor isn't as strong with him. Now, one thing that you do want to factor in here, the Yankees check the bullpen usage coming out of today's game, because they did have to, they did have the rally to come back against the Twins, a game that looked like we were going to lose, which would have itself been an event because they never lose to the Twins.
Right.
But sure enough, Fernando Rodney, arrow down this time for Fernando Rodney as he serves up the 3-run walk-off. It's still a scheduling situation that favors the Angels.
Yeah,
that is one thing I can say going in, is that the scheduling dynamics are going to favor the Angels here.
The Angels have definitely played a lot better than anybody thought they were going to play this year out of the gate. They're doing.
Well, I disagree with that. I did not bet them over, but I didn't even consider betting them under. So I thought this was a team that had a chance to be maybe a 90-win team this year. So I'm not at all surprised by what they're doing. And in fact, if they're pitching, the pitching right now is the concern for me. Particularly in the bullpen. I'm a little bit sketchy in their bullpen, but if they go out and find one of those solid leverage guys, late inning leverage guys, doesn't have to be a closer. They could make a run in that division.
The Angels, for me, where I was heading with that, Dave, is I still think in the betting markets they're a little bit undervalued in the games that Ohtani is not pitching.
I thought they were undervalued in the game Ohtani was pitching the other day. And I took the. I know I was in the minority in this, but
that was the game I was on the other side with that one. Yeah,
and it's like, wait a minute, this guy's pretty good, and they can. And I'm telling you, this team can rake. And by the way, Cole Calhoun just sucks right now. He's going to hit eventually, and Cozart isn't hitting right now. It's a lineup that's got some real danger to it.
I'm going to go with the Angels in this one because I do like the direction that Richards is going. I like the spot for the Angels at home. And like you said, it is going to be a big series. Oh. Anytime you get the Yankees coming to town, that's an event. And then throw on all the excitement that you've got with this team right now in Ohtani. I like him here. I think that they can take 2 out of 3 in this series against the Yankees. I'm going to take the Angels here. I think we're going to get a nice price on.
You're going to make a series bet?
I look at series bets, Dave, and I like to do that. But then you talk about you never know how the bullpen's gonna line up, and you get that. You always head into that Sunday game where you've got the day game after the night game. You don't know, if they're going to sit anybody. If they're going on the road and so forth the next day. It always concerns me, but I feel better taking a series play when I am betting the home team on the series because I'm going to generally get all hands on deck for all 3 games. The road teams in that last game, so oftentimes you see the manager with that day game after the night game give you a crappy lineup. It's just no other way to say it. Moving on to Sunday, guys, we've got the Dodgers. Maeda's pitching for the Dodgers, going against Ty Block for the Giants. Dave, the Giants, they've had high hopes for Block, and at times he's shown signs that he's got the potential, but, man, my big problem with him is this is a guy that's got 31 innings pitched so far. His strikeout-to-walk ratio is 16-14.
Yeah, he's not going to strike people out. He's a pitch-to-contact guy.
And he's putting too many guys on base with the walk.
But he's he doesn't get a lot of hard contact, which to me is also an important stat. He's not trying to be something he's not, which is a strikeout guy. Maeda's a better guy. And Maeda knows his role going out there is to pitch 6 innings and then get off the field. Here's the problem. The bullpen hasn't been reliable for the Dodgers, and they can't hit. They're just not playing very good baseball right now. And because they're the Dodgers, they're consistently overpriced. Yeah. This is going to be one of those games where I'm going to end up looking at it and saying, Jesus, they got some value here in the Giants. Do I want to take a chance on betting them? Probably not. Because I think it's going to be one of those games where I think the number's high, but on my number, I'm still going to have the Dodgers winning. And what I'm looking for, ultimately, is situations where I have the underdog winning the game on my numbers, and they're getting a price. So it's small road dogs and small favorites are where I usually am with my baseball plays. I think this one's probably going to fall a little outside that realm, but I'm probably a little higher on Ty Blach than most people. I don't think he's a great pitcher by any means. I think he's a 4. But he's one of those 4s who knows what his limitations are, and he pitches to his strength, which is to get soft contact and just, chew up some innings, keep the pitch count reasonably low, and try and get 6 or 7 innings in.
Ralph, you look at Maeda, and this is a spot where the last 2 outings, he was dominant. 11 2/3 innings, 17 Ks, only 3 walks. But it was against San Diego and Miami. And we talk, like football, we use the strength of schedule all the time. Do you factor that in when you're looking at a pitcher and his stats and guys say, well, this is a lineup that, you better have some good numbers going through this lineup. Do you factor that in?
Yeah, and let's add in that his first start was against San Francisco. The interesting thing in this game is that while the pitchers didn't face each other in the first series this year, Maeda pitched 5 shutout innings and got the win against San Fran. Blach pitched 5 shutout innings and got the win against the Dodgers. So this is the second time through the lineup these guys are seeing each other. But, you look at the Dodgers, and Dave said they're just not playing well. They're hitting .222 against lefties. And, and then I look at the San Francisco side. In the last 12 games, San Francisco's offense has produced over 4 runs just one game. They had 8 runs one game, but 11 out of their last 12 games, they've had 4 runs or less. It's tough backing a team if your ceiling is 4 runs. Lastly, I'll mention that the Giants are one of those teams. Dave talks about finding those teams that are getting some value. The Giants have a losing record this year, 11-13, but they are on the plus side money-wise, plus 0.8 units. So, again, they're a team that, as a dog, more dogs than favorites. And even at 11-13, it shows you they've been a sizable dog and have won their share of games.
And, Ralph, that's a good point, because when we talked about in that video, the betting tip video that we did this week, we said where you're going to find making the most money is finding one of those middle-of-the-rung teams that's going to hover, 500 or a little bit over, that's going to be underrated all year, and you're going to be getting those plus prices, not chasing the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Houston teams trying to get those big favorites, because we talked about it. They may end up with a 6-7 win percentage at the end of the year, but if you're laying 2-1, you just broke even.
Or 3-1 with Kershaw losing the other night.
Yeah.
That's your wake-up call right there, guys, is when you're looking at those big favorites, it takes a long time to make up over 3 units on one game.
And that's a great segue to where I'm going with this game, because I actually have it. That's what I'm going to say. Losing 2 out of 3 to Miami and Kershaw getting beat, I think that might just be the wake-up call for this Dodger team to light the fire, because I don't. So far, I just haven't seen it. I don't know if it's, that World Series hangover, whatever, but, we've talked about it, that they have gotten off to slow starts before. But with those slow starts before, Dave, we never were talking about the bullpen. We were talking maybe they weren't scoring runs or they weren't getting some good starting pitching. This is something new, having a concern at the end of the game with the Dodgers. So for me, depending where this line comes on Sunday, because when you do take one, the advantage of taking a first 5-inning wager is obviously you're eliminating the bullpen out of the equation, but Vegas is generally going to make you pay an extra 10 cents for taking that first 5-inning wager. So depending if the line comes out reasonable, it's for me, I'm going to look at the Dodgers. I just think that this pitching matchup, you give me these 2 guys for 5 innings, I want to take the Dodgers. in that matchup. But if it's too high, I won't be involved.
And props to Dave. I remember our first podcast this year, Dave was talking about KJ coming out of the bullpen and just not being the same pitcher for the Dodgers. So
the problem is it still hasn't, the early season dead arm. Now it's becoming more of a concern.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, maybe, listen, they could always make a deal with Oakland and get Chris Hatcher back. No, wait a minute.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, you know what time it is. It's Best Bet time. We'll be back in a minute.
Every Tuesday, WagerTalk.com offers a best bet selection from its hottest handicapper. It's a great way to introduce yourself to WagerTalk.com with a big best bet winner for just $2 on $2 Tuesday.
He beats me. Straight up. Pay him. Pay that man his money.
Welcome back to the WagerTalk Podcast. This is the part of the show you guys wait for. It is time for our best bets. And I want to tell everybody real quick, we got a special going at WagerTalk. You can pick your favorite capper and jump on board an all-access package for 7 days. An all-access package gets you everything from that capper, all of their baseball, all of their basketball, anything they have, hockey playoffs, any extras, you'll get it included. Check it out. Normally $99. You can get it right now, just $69. $30 discount. Don't need a coupon. Just head to WagerTalk.com to check it out. Dave, we're going to start with you on the best bets, and I know you've been running hot, and
Yep.
I'm guessing somebody just scored there because you got a little excited over there. And when we do these podcasts in studio with scores, Dave, we get to go up and down with the excitement of the night.
And these are 2% plays I have today, so they're not all big plays. But if you're an all-access client at WagerTalk, you get all the plays that I post there. And so a lot of these aren't promoted. And this is a good example of Seattle-Cleveland game that's taking place right now. I couldn't decide whether the first 5 or the full game was the better option. And I decided, you know what, I like the price better on the full game because, a dime line, I'm getting plus money with Paxton. But I think the first 5 may be a slightly stronger wager. So it's like, I'm going to play 2% on the first 5 and 2% on the full game. So it's actually, there's a 4% wager involved here, but it's split. And you can't advertise 2% plays because it's just simple. Nobody's going to buy them. Okay? 2%, I'm not buying that. Plus, they'd have to pay for 2 selections when it's really kind of one selection. If you're an all-access player, that's on, they get posted.
It's included.
It's included. Okay, so, and the Mariners are up 3-0 now. They've had a big third inning, and they're still hitting, and I like that. Okay.
I like that, too. I'm on Seattle, but I'm full game.
We have a long way to go. 3-0
Yeah.
lead doesn't mean anything. We know it's baseball.
Right.
It's not a 25-point lead in the NBA, which you can't ever lose.
Yeah, thank you.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It just did. I'm going to go to the NHL in Saturday's Game 1 between the Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And this should be a really fun series to watch because Tampa likes to play one way, and that is up and down the ice as fast as possible, wide open. And you know what? I think the Bruins are going to cooperate. And it's not like Rask wasn't exactly a stone wall the other night in that Toronto game. They ended up winning 7-4, but he really struggled in the first couple of periods. So, I think they're going to get goals here. I think this series is going to live up to expectations in terms of it being a shootout. And you're going to have to pay. I mean, the odds makers aren't stupid. They're not putting up a 5.5 on this. It's 6 on Game 1. So you're going to have to get 7 goals to win it. But I think you've got a good chance, particularly with the Bruins coming out of a 7-game series that was a little bit draining. And Tampa had their hands full, even though it was only, it wasn't that long a series against New Jersey, but they didn't have an easy time in that series, and it was high scoring. I think you're going to get an over here. So over 6 minus 105. 20-cent totals lines in hockey. So, both sides are favored, if you will, over and the under. But minus 105 is pretty good. So Tampa and Boston, Game 1, over 6, minus 105.
Ralph, we're going to head to you. You've got to play on Saturday, and you've been running hot as well at WagerTalk. Check out your plays, and again, the all access for $69 for 7-day package. You can't beat that. You're looking at the Arizona-Washington series on Saturday. Tell us about it.
Well, we mentioned earlier, we were talking about Washington, and I mentioned that 7-14 the last 21 games, 1-7 against lefties. Well, the reason they're 1-7 against lefties is because they're last in Major League Baseball, hitting .208 against southpaws. You look at Hellickson, he was 8-11 with a 5.43 ERA. This is only his third start. He's given up 5 earned runs in 4 2/3 and 5 in a third inning. And, no one's pitched better than Patrick Corbin. He turned the corner last year after the All-Star break, finishing last year 8-4 with a 3.26. This year, 4-0 with a .66 whip. The opposition's batting 140 against him with a 1.89 ERA. Arizona, again, Washington truly struggles against lefties, and I think we're going to get it at a very fair price. So Saturday, Arizona with Corbin.
Cy Corbin. Right now he is.
Yeah.
Right now he's Cy Corbin, and if you want to see a guy who can bury a slider on righty hitters too, he'll just bury it right at their feet. I'm telling you, man, he is good.
He's dealing it right now.
Yep.
There's no question about it. I'm going to go to Friday night, and I'm going to look at the matchup with the Oakland A's and Houston. We've got Mr. No-No on the mound for Oakland on Friday night. And, Dave, old school, guy throws a no-hitter, Minea, last week. We're looking to go against them in the next outing. It's just, a lot of partying going on after that game, and you just can't have that same intensity. And you don't want to come in not 100%, mentally focused against this Houston lineup because they can put up some runs in a hurry. And Dallas Keuchel, he is finally getting it going. And go back to Minea for 1 second. In 8 career starts against Houston, his team is 2-6 in those starts. Keuchel in 16 career starts against Oakland, ERA of 2.57, a whip of 1.16. Last 2 starts for Keuchel, he's gone 14 innings. He's allowed only 3 runs, got a 12-3 strikeout-to-walk ratio. Here's a stat going back to the start of last season. Houston, when installed as a favorite, 117-60. Good numbers there. Little quirky stat for Oakland. They had yesterday off. Over the last 2+ seasons, Oakland off a day off, just 10-26 in their next game. They had Thursday off, so playing
I wish they had Wednesday off because they actually lost that game.
So I'm going to take Houston, but I'm going to steal a page out of Dave's playbook. And this is something that, again, and we should have talked about this on the baseball handicapping video, because this is a good way to get yourself, take a favor to maybe you don't want to lay that full number. And Houston's minus 160, the early number here for Friday. And if you don't want to lay that whole 160, you split your bet. Go Houston, half of your wager on the money line, and then take Houston minus 1.5 runs the other way. But you want to do it when you're getting plus money, and You're getting plus 130 on this bet. So in essence, what you've got is minus one run at minus $1.30.
Yep.
So you can split.
Well, actually, minus $1.30, but actually a better return on the plus side because you'd be getting plus, what is it, plus 130?
You're getting plus 130 minus the 1.5.
Minus 32 plus 115 if you split your bet.
Right, exactly. So good way to do it. Bring down your risk factor in that game, and then if they win by 2 runs, you sweep the board. You win by 1 run, you're going to make a little small you'll split out.
A couple of quick notes, by the way, on the Oakland side. You'll want to check statuses here. Blake Trinan, this is their bullpen. Blake Trinan took a line drive off the shin on Tuesday. Don't know what his status is. Ryan Buckner struck out 1 guy on Wednesday and then walked off the mound with a shoulder problem. One would assume he's not available. And Yusmeiro Petit, unfortunately, his mom died, and he is away from the team on bereavement leave. That's their 3 best relievers. They could be minus all of them for this weekend against the Astros, so bear that in mind if you're considering the A's.
And if you're laying 1.5 runs in the late innings, that's big. So good stuff from Dave as always. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this week. I want to thank my partners in crime, Dave Cokin, Ralph Michaels, joining me in studio. Of course, you wouldn't hear any of this without the man behind the controls, Mark Seidel. And shout out to our man in Motown. Just make a little note, this podcast is going to get up a little later than usual, as Johnny Detroit is at a draft party in Detroit, and word has it that at the end of that draft party, they're going to have another draft at the Flight Club. The Flight Club, for those not in the Detroit area, it's the most popular strip club, and Bobby Liggs and Johnny Detroit will have their own draft of the talent that night.
Fantasy draft,
yeah.
Obviously.
So he takes care of getting the show out to everybody to listen on all the social media. And guys, till next week, let's cash some tickets on Marco D'Angelo.